So I have some time here in Amityville on Long Island, Suffolk County, Long Island, and I have a whole afternoon free. So I thought, what a better way to spend the afternoon than to go out and try to find some more of, where is it? These historical markers. They're all over Long Island. There's a website, I'll put it down below here, where you can find all these historical markers. The thing is, they're really not convenient. You know, like this one, it's on this busy street here, and there's no parking down like any of these streets. There's like no parking down this street or down the street down there. These are all like parking lots for businesses and stuff. So you really got to look out for them. I mean, this one here, if I walk down the street here, you'll see it's like off on the other side of this fence on this busy road. So unless you know where it is, you're gonna drive right by it. This particular one here, this first one I found, let me go over it. So this first one I found here, if I can get up to it, the Ireland's Mill. I guess there was a family out here, last name Ireland, and they purchased the land in 1793. They built a grist mill here. Ran it for 4 generations, and it was on this site until around 1913, until the building was raised in 1915. Early 20th century, mostly mid-20th century, Long Island became a hot spot for post-war vets, post-Great War, World War II, all to come out from New York, Brooklyn, and the city to come live on the island. And it was about that time that a lot of these historic places were torn down. But I'm so glad they put these markers up. As I stated, they're all over Long Island. Check out the website, and let's see how many I can find today. I'm only going to look for about like 10 or 12 of them. The next one is down there, is where they first tested the guided missiles. What I understand, it's basically just a stone plaque at a street intersection. Let's go check it out. Next one here on the corner of Broadway down there, and this street here. This is Loudon Street, and here's the next marker. But this says Brunswick home. Stephen R. Williams, formed in 1887 for disabled children, and later for adults. Let's see here. Became Brunswick Hospital in 1931, and the building was raised in 2012. So as of only making this video, as of only 7 years ago, there was a building here. Now it's just a big empty field. But yeah, again, we have a plaque to commemorate this hospital. I'll have to look into it a little bit more to understand just why it was such an important building. Maybe it was the fact that it was for disabled children. Maybe it was for the architecture of the building. And let's head on to our next marker. So I followed the map from this road here. Follow this. If you take this road down, there's Oak Street. You make a left, and it's Broadway, and there's the Amityville Library right here. This is the next street heading away from Broadway, I guess west. And there's a historic marker here, but it's not like the other ones that my head's crooked. Let's see if I get this going. All right. Not like the other markers. This is the second one like this I've seen. The other one was over near the guided missile little monument thing there, and this is something I didn't know about. There's a trolley system. I mean, it makes sense. People were coming out to the island for a while, and there was a trolley system that went out this way. I guess it was before the Long Island Railroad, which is right there. This is the Amityville Railroad Station. So I guess it was a trolley system that would come out here, and it would take you to a ferry that would take you over to like where Jones Beach is now. And I guess the ferry wasn't too far from where that guided missile site was. So, and these markers were placed here recently. This one dedicated in 2010. So even to this day, they're still putting these markers up. Like the other one, it must be fairly recent to say that the building was taken down in 2012. So a lot of the old history is still here. But as you can see, we're losing it, but they are remembering it, and that's what I really love, and that's why I do these things and read these markers. So let's see what else we can find. Southside Railroad. So railroad from New York City. Let's completed in October 1867. That was right after the Civil War. It was the first depot erected in 1868 for travelers, local commerce, and mail. The Long Island Railroad assumed the line by 1876. So, as you can see, shortly after the Civil War, there were so many people coming out to Long Island that they had to have their own railroad system. And again, there's the Amityville Long Island stop, Long Island Railroad stop, and the other thing that we saw for the trolley was just across the parking lot here on the other side of those trees. And this sign is just across the parking lot. This is behind me here. This is the Amityville Fire Department right here, and here is the sign commemorating the Southside railroad line. So this railroad line is the Long Island Railroad line here. It's been running since about the 1860s, since the Civil War. It's a long time. It's over 150 years ago. So next time you're riding on the Long Island Railroad, you're riding on a line or a rail system that's been around since almost the Civil War. From the Long Island Railroad station, Amityville station, and the fire department, I headed east down Oak Street, and it brought me to this little park here. You can see the fountain in the back. I guess they're doing a lot of construction on it right now. They're redoing the park, doing a lot of construction on this road. So we'll see what it looks like later. But here's the next sign. Not really sure what I'm looking at the sign here. It says it's Suffolk County, organized November 1st, 1683. It's one of the original counties of the province of New York. Originally East Riding of Yorkshire. So I guess this area was called Yorkshire, East Riding. And we know about Suffolk County. It's the next county over. I believe I'm still in Nassau County, or I'll have to look. Maybe this is the line. Maybe this is the dividing line right here. But yeah, so here's our next marker, which talks about Suffolk County and its original name. So I was just walking down the street here, kind of letting my mind wander about things, and I almost walked right past this one because it's right here, right in the middle of the street. There's basically just houses. It's a big bush here, and residential houses. The next corner is down there, and this is just here. But I guess it's because it represents, or it tells us about somebody who used to live either here or over here. It's not very specific, but it is Naomi, I think I'm pronouncing that right, Naomi W. Griffiths, the first Amityville Suffrage Club president. Formed in 1914, held local meetings and socials supporting voting rights for women. Now, if you guys know your history, you'll know that women didn't get the right to vote until the 20s. And there was a movement. I mean, it started in the 1800s, internationally and nationally in the United States, to get women the right to vote. And it's become known as the suffrage movement. As a matter of fact, during World War I, so you see this is, what's this here? 1914, so the United States wasn't even in World War I at the time. I think it was the first year in Europe. During World War I, 1916, 17, 18, the suffragettes went to the White House and camped out in front of the White House and refused to leave. The president at the time, Wilson, he actually ordered his staff to come out with drinks and water and stuff to give to the suffragettes, and I think clothing and stuff when they were doing it in the winter. So it was a huge movement, and eventually it led to, forget the amendment, I'll have to put it up on the screen here, I'll put it up on the screen right here, that it was an amendment to the Constitution that gave women to vote, I believe, in 1921. So yeah, she must have played a big role, or she led a role here in Amityville to get women the right to vote. All right, so here I am in Copiague. That's the Copiague. See it on there? Yeah, it says it over there. It's the Copiague Long Island Railroad Station, and just south of that, right here, here's our sign. As it say here, it's the Southside Railroad Station. I can read it if I take my glasses off, as usual. Actually, I can't. There we go. Railroad line built in 1867. Long Island Railroad assumed the line by 1876, just like the other one down there. The first depot in 1901 named Copiague. What the heck? Huh. There's a failed attempt to rename it Marconiville in the 1920s. You know, Marconi was like the radio. I wonder if they wanted to call it Marconiville because of the radio. Anyway, I never knew that they wanted to name Copiague Marconiville, but this is the original Copiague Railroad Station from 1901. Alright, so this next one here, tucked in back here, is kind of tucked in front of this school here. I think this is the Great Neck Elementary School. It's kind of an older looking building, and as you can see, if we walk over to the marker here, this is the Great Neck Road School. The school has been here since 1911, and there's a photograph down here which shows how it originally looked, and it said that it was the first wooden schoolhouse in 1911. The Great Neck Road School is the oldest elementary school in the town of Babylon. Brick extensions were added to the original schoolhouse in 1925, 31, and 1954 to accommodate Copiague's growing population. So I looked at this picture and I looked at the building, and it kind of looks like this area here might still be around, but I don't know if this original building is still here. They might have ripped it down over the years to build a new building, but yeah. So it's an elementary school that's been here since 1910. You know, I normally live in Los Angeles, and things in 1910 are rare. Most of the stuff there was like the 1930s, 1940s, stuff like that. So you come here to New York, and like 1910, you know, that's really not that old. We're looking at signs from places to the 1600s and 1700s. But still, if you go to this school, just think about how many people, kids, learned in this school from 1910. I mean, that's like, it's almost 110 years ago. All right, so according to the map I have, I printed out here, the last historical marker is supposed to be right here, just north of the train station on Marconi Street, but there's no marker. However, there's this statue, and over here there's a stone monument, and then there's the Veterans Memorial Plaza. So I think this is what they're talking about. So the statue here of this guy, he's a young-looking soldier, you know. But most people that served in our nation's wars, they were like between the ages of 17 and 20 something. You know, they weren't old guys like me. They were young people. So this is the American warrior. This statue is dedicated to those in uniform who served and continued to serve our country and protect its freedom. And there you go, the American warrior. I think it says something else on the side here. Like most of these things, dedicated World War I, 1914 to 1918. You know, a lot of our military statues and veterans memorials, you know, they all came out of World War I. That was the first big war that we fought. You know, so there's the World War I, and then there's this other one back here. This is also World War I. It's people, I guess, from the local area that served, and their adopted country found them ready. I guess they served. I'm not sure if they died in the war or they just served, but that's a list of their names. And wherever you go, you'll tend to find these World War I memorials. Later on, there was World War II, and then a spattering of Vietnam. So there you have it. I visited, I believe, 11 little historical markers that I found, 10 or 11. It was a little bit of a walk. Most of them are off these train stations, so if you just want to get on the Long Island Railroad and check out some historical markers, like I said, I'll leave a link where you can find the maps and the locations of all the markers, or feel free to drive around or park your car and walk like I did. There's a lot of great history here on Long Island. Not only World War I, World War II, but you know, the history of Long Island dates all the way back to the 1650s, with pretty noticeable names like, you know, Thomas Jones and William Floyd and the Roosevelts, and you know, the first test of a guided missile system. I had no idea about that, but Long Island's got a rich history. It's got a lot of architecture, you know, most of it's gone, replaced typically in the 50s and 60s and 70s or 80s, when people really started moving into this area really hardcore, and they ripped a lot down to build shopping centers and housing communities. But as these markers showed and these statues, the history's still there. So I encourage you to go out and find it. And thanks for watching this video. And hopefully I'll be able to do this again someplace else on Long Island. Thank you. And be sure to subscribe to check out more day trips that I have coming, and more of these little walks that I do. All right, until next time, get out and stay safe.